Alrighty, today we're going to be having our first look at the Attribute 4 event, opening it up with Earth Machine. Now this deck has been a ton of fun. I don't think a lot of people really know what these cards do because you don't really see it a lot in ranked, so we've been taking advantage of the fact that not everybody is reading our cards properly and harvesting some free wins, no pun intended. But no, it's been an absolute blast. I love the power level of the meta in this new event. It's definitely still a really powerful meta game with tons of really good decks, but it has shaved off the very top layer, so it has, which is really good. I absolutely love that. There's still a ton of super powerful, super viable decks in here, so I don't feel like we're playing in a reduced power level format, which I didn't really like about the other events. I felt like I was playing baby mode, not in terms of its difficulty, but in terms of the quality of the cards you could play, whereas this, we're not feeling quite as handicapped. Now, there are quite a few cards you're missing and not able to play, thanks to the ban list, like your Unclasper or whatever, your Reinforce, but there's still more than enough useful tools here to enable your deck to really do a lot of damage, really abusing the Citadel, abusing the Fortress. We didn't really get into our OTK package, ironically. Most of the time, people either quit before that happened, or we already had them beat. But there is definitely a lot of versatility when it comes to this deck, so we're just going to jump into some gameplay here, some replays that I've got saved up, as well as a deck profile at the end. We'll be doing card for card at the end, so stick around for that, and do watch the gameplay if you're new to Earth Machines or don't really know how it plays. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but, you know, it's definitely been an awful lot of fun playing it in the event. And yeah, if you're new around, or maybe if you're coming back and you just haven't subscribed yet, I would implore you at least consider it if you enjoy the content you're watching. You know, every little bit helps. Every single subscriber is adding up to our ultimate goal. What is our goal? As high as we can get it. Initially, I had targeted getting 2,000 by the end of this year, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. So maybe let's aim a little higher. Let's see if we can get 2,500. See if we can make it happen. Either way, enjoy the gameplay, enjoy the deck profile, and like the video if you like it. Let's get into it. Alrighty, quick heads up, these games aren't in any particular order, so I can't remember why we ordered them the way we did. Here's an easy one. If you're playing against Adamancipators, are a really cool option for this. Vernus Life Adamancipators seem like they're going to be really cool. But if you see the normal summon Doki Doki to begin their combos, negate that thing. Like 77% of the time, they just can't play the game. So there you go. If you see Doki Doki normal summon, just negate it. It's not a problem. So we draw into the Maxi here, which is dope. We're going to activate our Machina redeployment. Now, our opponent goes for a Maxi of their own here. We had the option to negate it, but we decided, you know what, we probably didn't have the tools to go for lethal, so we're just going to chill, play it a wee bit slower. We're going to grab our Citadel and our Gear Frame, normal summon the Gear Frame so we can grab Fortress directly from the deck. We're going to ditch the Citadel to summon Fortress. For anyone who doesn't know, this is one of the most infamous machines in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. You can special summon this card from your hand to your graveyard by discarding machines whose total levels equal 8 or more, including itself. So we drop the Citadel to grave to just special summon it, and that's honestly, as simple as it seems, one of the best plays in the entire deck, because not only, so this guy, when it's destroyed by battle, will target a card in the field and destroy it, basically. Target one of your opponent's cards, pops the card in the damage step, which is super hard to negate for most cards. And whenever an Earth Machine on your field is destroyed, Citadel resummons itself, and then during the next turn, if Citadel's still around, you can send Citadel to resummon your Fortress, and so on and so forth. So it's a really, really cool play. Only one special summon, so our opponent only drew one card. That's why we were sort of like happy enough not to negate the Maxi. Plus, if we used Call by the Grave to negate the Maxi, then ours would have been dead. That's the main reason. So they go Lightning Storm, that's fine, nothing we can do about that, but we can bring out the Citadel. That means no matter what he summons, our Citadel can pop it, because this guy, as long as he's face up, you can target an Earth Machine in your field, destroy it, and then destroy all monsters your opponent controls with less attack points than it. So if he summons anything, we're wiping his field. And I'm pretty sure he knows that, and yeah, he scoops it up. Simple as that. Like, that's the most bread and butter basic of plays that this deck can do, and it's really good. And that's backed up by loads of cards. We didn't set our Call by the Grave, we definitely should have, but you know what I mean. Like, that's what we're getting at. Really simple, really straightforward plays. Let's get in the game too. Alrighty, getting into game 2 then. We got a bit of a different hand, but it's going to be good nonetheless. We were playing Foolish Burial at this point. I did end up cutting that because it felt a bit slow to me. But it's grand. We're going to play our Fury on this Coliseum, grabbing a Regulus, ditching the other one to grab ourselves a Gear Frame and a Citadel. Redeployment is so good. Normal summon the Gear Frame, adding the Metal Cruncher, because we already have Fortress and Grave, so we can just summon it from there directly. It's awesome. The reason we were holding off on using this is because I knew he had Max E in hand, because he had something activatable on summon against Gear Frame and he just didn't use it, which meant he almost certainly had something he could activate, and it only made sense that was Max E. So we held off on using this guy because Fortress doesn't start a chain link when you summon it. Even if it's a special summon from the graveyard, you don't activate the effect, meaning your opponent doesn't get the opportunity to chain a card. So we were going to special summon the Fortress before our opponent even had the ability to react to one of our summons, right? So that's why we did it in that order. Small sort of like optimization play. It just stops them from drawing one extra card, and then we ended up just passing turn. We had a few options. We could have gone into the Blackluster Soldier, which would have been a pretty decent play. Would have been untargetable and indestructible, but we wanted to keep Earth Machines on our field because we got that Citadel in the graveyard. It's pretty dope. So they target and negate our Fortress because, I don't know, they're stupid. They don't know how its effect works, I guess. We're playing against Marincess here. Now, to save ourselves some trauma, I'm just going to speed this up because they will be comboing 4 days. Marincess, of course, being one of the other most powerful decks in the event, and as far as I've seen, one of the more popular ones as well. I haven't seen very much Salamangreat, which I was expecting to see more of. I dare say as I progress through the event, we'll see a little bit more of it, but for now, it's mainly been Marincess, as well as a couple of other really cool strategies. But again, so far I'm loving it. So they're going to add the trap card here. The trap card, of course, is the problematic card for this deck. They're just going to continue summoning. Now this, right, this is how I know our opponent doesn't know how to read, right? This is how I know they don't know how to read, because they summon the counter. They have the counter, they have the Abyss Dweller. Now, we could have played around it. It would have been a pain, because we would have had to play 2 turns, and then do all of our actual plays on turn 4 instead of turn 2. But our opponent is actually brain dead, right? So they activate, they summon the Argonaut, whatever, go into the battle phase and swing at the Fortress. The correct play is activate Dweller first, because Dweller would have stopped everything that's about to happen. So Fortress, when destroyed, is going to target and pop the Argonaut. It wasn't summoned using Crystal Heart, it wasn't being protected by the trap card, so this thing is fully vulnerable to being destroyed. And because this is the damage step, he can't chain anything. So he's just cooked. He is simply cooked. So that is gone. Citadel resummons itself to the field. That means we get the ability to wipe out his whole board whenever we want, meaning Abyss Dweller can't even be used next turn. His combos are dead, his plays are dead, no trap card, no nothing, and he simply loses the game. We go in next turn, we have 2 level 10s on board, we just go full train of DK, and it sucks to be Marincess. It's that easy. Now, everyone tends to scoop when you get to this point. That's why I'm showing these games and not showing games we get lethal, because doesn't happen very often because they scoop first. But there you go, that is a perfect example of someone not reading your cards, and it happens all the time. Anyway, let's get into game number 3 where someone actually does read our cards. Already getting into game 3 here. Now you're looking at the hand and you're thinking bunch of high level monsters, not really the greatest, but we've got heavy forward and we've got Machina redeployment, Machina, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. Some people call it Machina. I think that's the only pronunciation that I think is offensive. We're playing against Mutant, which is really interesting. I haven't seen this, I've maybe seen this deck played once in ranked. It was not a challenge. I saw branded mutants once. So they're gonna link someone off here into Sprite Elf, and this is what I thought was most curious, because Sprite Elf is gonna be a huge deal for this deck. Now, the biggest problem for us is the fact that they used their, I'll quickly pause it, they used their Pot of Prosperity to grab Macrocosmos from their deck to their hand, which is going to be a significant issue for our deck, so we need to be very careful how we play this. We do, basically, anything that would be sent to the graveyard is going to be banished instead, so we need to play this smart. Going into the main phase, we decide we're going to go for redeployment first, because we don't want him to chain this to anything else, and we want to get our Citadel into the graveyard as soon as possible. We drop the Citadel, he then chains Macrocosmos. We get the discard Citadel first because it's a cost, which is why we did it like that. He is going to go Sprite Elf to resurrect the Mutant M05, which is awesome. I love this guy's deck, by the way. Really, really, really cool. I wonder how affordable it is. I didn't actually even look at the list. If this is affordable, you bet your ass I'm stealing it. I'm not going to lie. We're going to go Gear Frame here. Gear Frame normal summon, going to grab us a Fortress. Now, this is where things get a little bit hairy because they've got the Hop Ear Squadron, one of the most freaking ridiculous cards in the game that I never see played for some reason. He basically just special summons it, immediately synchro summons, and he goes into Ching Ying, which I thought was pretty dope. Now, our whole plan here completely went out the window as soon as he summoned this. Our plan was put out 3 monsters to go into the Blackluster Soldier and use the fact that it's an absolute beast of a card to just overwhelm the opponent. That made total sense to me. But now, life gets difficult because we tribute the gear frame off for our Brutal Dozer. Brutal Dozer goes to special summon an Infinitrack from the deck, but our Ching Ying is triggered because the Macrocosmos banishes our card. Gone the Brutal Dozer, gone the Citadel, and there goes 2 of our massive resources. We're going to summon out Fortress. We don't have the ability to go into another card here. I go into the Ballista here. Now, this is because I forgot how Sprite Elf worked. I'm not going to lie, this is totally my fault. We add the Gearbox. Gearbox, I believe, doesn't add another card because we already had all our targets. We go to use Ballista to try and reduce the Supreme Sovereign to 0, which was silly because our attack points was 0 anyway. We just literally couldn't have done anything about this, and I'm pretty sure we just, yeah, we scoop it up. 100%. Guy just had us beat. Dead to rights. Nothing we could have done about that. That was really, really cool. So if that deck that we just saw is in any way affordable, I might expect a little video on that one. I'm not gonna lie, I might have to yoink that list. But speaking of yoink, let's get into game number 4. I don't know why that's related to yoink, but on we go. Alrighty, getting into game 4 here, and we are buzzing, man. It's been a while since I had this much fun recording, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna go Regulus here, adding it to our hand. Of course, we're gonna drop the train to the grave just so we'll put a machine in our graveyard, grabbing Gear Frame, grabbing Citadel. It doesn't really matter which of them you grab unless something like this happens. So ideally there's not really an ideal one you want between Citadel and Fortress. The reason we went Citadel this time and not Fortress is because we didn't really have another big machine that we wanted to discard. We would really rather have our Regulus in play. So we decided Citadel, at least its effect activates not only in graveyard but also in hand, I believe. No, I'm incorrect. It activates only in the graveyard, but that's totally fine. They're gonna negate our Gear Frame. That means no Fortress Search for us. Sucks to suck. You know, what are you gonna do? Cry about it? So we're gonna activate our Regulus here. Regulus then summoning itself out to the field by using the train on our graveyard as an equip. So we've got 1 negate. We've got the Urgent Schedule, which is a really, really good card. But it's really good going second, and for some reason we were forced to go first an awful lot, even though we sort of built our deck for going second. He's going to go into Monk of the Tinny here. Sword Souls, by the way, totally playable in the event. The only difficulty is that they don't have Ching Ying, but like, there's so many other good synchro monsters. They definitely don't fill the niche, right? Don't get me wrong, they do not fill the niche. But they have their own niches. It's pretty cool. I like it. So they're going to go for the Moyi here. We're just going to make the play. We're going to negate it with the Regulus. Otherwise, things can get schnasty for us. They do have Summit in hand, which they showed us. Now they're going to go for the Sovereign, the Strategist. And the saddest part about this is limited to 2. They had both. They discarded one for the other. We've got called by the grave. That's really unfortunate for our opponent. That was so sad. They would have been at a major advantage had they have been able to resolve that, but alas, that's simply not what the cards had in mind, and they have no choice really but to pass it back to us here. They're going to banish their Adara, grabbing their Strategist back to La Hand, but they have nothing else they can do, and they're forced to pass it to us, but not before we activate Urgent Schedule, special summoning a level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher machine monster directly from the deck, as long as their effects are negated, which is amazing. Basically gives us all the materials we need to get gaming here. So we're going to link these 2 off into the Ancient Gear Ballista. We're going to show off the Ballista now because it adds the box. What does the box do? Well, when it's added to the hand, it's going to grab you an Infinitrack. Either Drill or the, there's another one. So we're going to use it. It's going to summon Metal Cruncher. Metal Cruncher is going to grab us an Infinitrack Harvester by forcing them to add 1 to our hand. Drop the Citadel, summon the Fortress. Now we're going to link 3 off into Blackluster Soldier. Now at this point, I could potentially have gone for Lethal, I think, if I had done this play slightly differently. And there is also one little bit I messed up that it doesn't ultimately have an impact in this game, but whatever. But either way, we've got a decent amount of damage on board here. We're going to take out a monster with a Blackluster Soldier. We meant to select the effect that lets us banish a card here, but instead we just double clicked and hit the 1500 attack effect. It ends up not mattering, but either way, we also get to use the effect of the Discoloseum. Whenever a monster is destroyed by battle, you get to recycle one of your Furion cards, which is really good. So you can continuously recycle your negates. We're going to activate the Regulus, bringing it back using the gear frame as its equip, and we are sitting pretty. We are loving it. Now, we do need to remember our opponent has 2 copies of Strategist as well as a Summit in their hand. We don't know what the card they top deck is, but we know that their hand is pretty damn stacked. We are going to negate the Strategist. They discard the other one, so we're not worried about the Strategist anymore. We're not worried about Boron de Fleur. We're not worried about Qing Ying. That is fine. Summit, however, is going to bring back their Mo Yi. Mo Yi will be summoning out a token by revealing their now defunct Strategist, and that is going to be a problem. They're now going to Synchro Summon off into the White Oro Wheel. White Oro Wheel, when summoned, wipes out all attack position monsters your opponent controls, the only exception to that, of course, being our Blackluster Soldier, which is immune to targeting and destruction. Now, that does trigger our Citadel, which is pretty nuts. So the last card in their hand, I guess, was a Maxi, unless they top decked off a Mo Yi, but whatever. I'm talking very fast, but you know what, I'm just excited. So much action is happening all at once. We're bringing out the Citadel. Citadel gives us an active quick play Raigeki whenever we want. They're going to add the Taya to their hand from the deck off of the Emergence. Normal summon the Taya, activate its effect, banishing Summit, summoning out a token, and at this point, all of his monsters have less than 3,000 attack points. We're just going to activate Citadel, wipe the board, wipe the life points, and just completely end the game. Our opponent's going to resummon their White Aura Wheel, but again, there's nothing they can do. That is simply game over. The Blackluster Soldier would easily have been able to mop that up. We of course still had Fortress and Grave, which would just resummon itself again, and life in general was not looking good for our opponent. And sometimes that's just how it be. Again, they played well. They played about as well as they could have, as well as we could have expected them to. Very well done to them. I of course will be looking at Sword Souls in this event as well. So many decks I want to play. This, Madolche, Vernus Life, Citadel. So many things I want to play. Really awesome event so far, but I'm not going to hold us up. Let's get into the deck profile. Alrighty, getting into the deck profile. Now, the deck, if you want to look at it a certain way, is sort of just succinctly cut down into either Infinitrax or Machina. Those are the main sort of engines. Now, there are a couple of cards that maybe we should have played that we didn't. Specifically, some of the Train cards. I forgot that this card existed, which is a really good one. This is a really good one, actually. We really should have been playing this. Maybe instead of 2 heavy freights, we could have played one of this. So there are definitely a ton of options in there that you can look through and customize the deck with. This is by no means the end-all and be-all way of playing it, but it's definitely a way of playing it, and it was an absolute blast. So we're going to cover this off just as it is. First of all, we got the triple Maxi, of course. If you're not playing Maxi in this event, you're simply playing the event wrong. One of the single best cards in the event, because of how many hand traps and things are banned, basically. So Maxi is pretty nuts. We've got the Harvester. Harvester is one of your starter cards between this and your Gear Frame or your main starters. Anchor Drill to a lesser extent, but Harvester basically on summon's going to grab an Infinitrack monster from your deck and add it to your hand, and all of your other Infinitracks are absolute game changers. This also has another effect where you can target another machine, and both monsters' levels become the combined levels of the 2 monsters, which gives you a lot of versatility with your extra deck, probably more so than what I'm taking advantage of. So Harvester definitely gives you a ton of options, one of the better starters in the deck, considering the power of some of the Infinitracks, especially the Brutal Dozer, which we will get to. Triple Ash Blossom, because everyone's playing Maxi, so I mean, sort of mandatory, I'm not going to lie. Double Gear Frame. I was initially playing this at 3, I think 2 is fine though, although 3 is also fine. I never had a situation where I had too much of it, so maybe you want to play this at 3, go ahead. Basically 1800 beater, which is ironically decent in this event. Sometimes an 1800 beater is a decent normal summon with the amount of Maxi going around. But on summon, you basically grab any Machina monster from your deck and add it to your hand. It also has a union effect, but that sucks, so we're not going to talk about it. But mainly here just as a normal summon and search for your Citadel or your Fortress. Technically Metal Cruncher, but mainly Citadel and Fortress. And the reason that's so good is because typically you're going to be grabbing your Gear Frame off of redeployment, Spoilers, redeployment then grabs you 2 Machina monsters, and then Gear Frame just grabs the one you're missing. So there you go. Ancient Gear Box. This is here for one purpose and one purpose only. It gives your Ancient Gear Ballista the ability to search your deck for Anchor Drill, or there's another one. Tunneler gives it the ability to search for Tunneler. Basically anything that has exactly 500 attack or defense, it can search for. So mainly just the Anchor Drill, to be honest, but also the Tunneler to a lesser extent. And you really want to be having Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill's nuts. So Ancient Gear Box, when added to your hand, added from the deck or your graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can grab any Earth Machine monster that has 500 attack or defense. Pretty simple. So basically you're just using your Ballista, which on summon grabs you an Ancient Gear, and then you grab your box then grabs you Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill's effect, we're actually going to talk about it now, it's next in the list. When this card is summoned, you can special summon an Earth Machine monster from your hand in defense. So it special summons a monster from your hand, and of course you're virtually always going to have one because you just grabbed the Ancient Gear Box. That's the whole point of the combo. So you ideally want to be summoning these two out, and because of that, there are certain things you might want to be doing, like in terms of its second effect. So Anchor Drill, not only does it special summon a monster from hand, it also has the same ability as Harvester, where you can target 2 monsters and your levels become the total levels of both. What you might want to add into your deck to take advantage of that is perhaps some rank 8 Exceeds. I just didn't really have, there's not really a lot of good ones here, I'm not gonna lie. Unless you want to play the Drum Dragon. Not really. Yeah, it's not really, there's not a lot of good options. So we didn't play any of them, but it is something worth bearing in mind that you can do. But yeah, basically, what we'll typically use that for is either to go into our Gear Gigant X, our Abyss Dweller, or sometimes just link material alongside a higher level monster for our Blackluster Soldier. It's just a really good way of extending and getting a bunch of monsters on board. Then we've got the Infinitrack Trencher. Getting into our higher level Infinitracks, all of these 3 have the same beginning effect where you can tribute an Earth Machine monster on your field to special summon them from your hand in defense mode. So they all basically summon themselves by tributing something on field. Then they all have a different secondary effect. So the Trencher, you can banish this card from your graveyard to target a level 5 or lower Infinitrack in your grave and special summon it. So it basically just extends when it's in the grave. Pretty dope. You've got the Tunneler, which lets you target 5 Earth Machines in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck to draw 2. So basically you banish it from grave to play Pot of Avarice, which is awesome. I love this card. Doesn't come up super often, but when it does, it's a game changer. We've got the Brutal Dozer. Brutal Dozer is the best of the 3 by far. If this card special summon from the hand, you can special summon any Infinitrack monster from your deck, but its effect is negated. So definitely really strong there. You're just summoning out any of your Infinitracks, which is dope because they're all level 5s. You're typically going to exceed summon with them into your River Stormer, unless you have need of a specific level for whatever reason. But Dozer is amazing. You might honestly want to play more copies of this. It's that good. We've got Fortress, which comes up all the time. This is a paramount card in any machine deck, really. It's super versatile. Like I said, you can discard machine monsters from your hand to special summon this card from your hand or your graveyard, so long as their levels equal 8 or more. Now, it itself counts as discard fodder, so if this is in your hand, you can discard this and any other machine monster to special summon this card from the grave. So super easy to summon. If it's targeted by a monster effect, you get to look at your opponent's hand and choose a card to discard it if they target with a monster effect, or if they destroy it by battle, you get to destroy a card in their field. So both of those are really solid effects for defense. They're not going to come up all of the time, but they definitely come up more than you would think. You've got your Furion King Regulus, definitely one of the boss monsters of the deck for sure. This is the card that gives you a little bit of control when it comes to going first. It can special summon itself in the hand by targeting any Earth Machine or any machine in general, in your graveyard, summons itself out and then equips that machine onto it as a equip card, which can sometimes be useful. I'm pretty sure that works alongside your Gear Frame to give your Furion some protection. If the equipped monster will be destroyed by battle or card effect, destroy this card instead. So I'm pretty sure that triggers the union effect of Gear Frame, but honestly, you'll so seldomly require it that it doesn't actually even matter. It basically just, while it's face up on the field, if your opponent activates a card effect, you can send a Furion monster either from your hand or your field to the graveyard to negate that effect. Pretty simple. Metal Cruncher, Machina Metal Cruncher. Now this card is, it's okay. On summon, you can basically check, you can reveal 3 Earth Machines from your deck, your opponent randomly adds one of them to your hand, so it's a bit of a resource generation. It can search a card if you have 3 of the same monster. Typically you're going to use it with like your Harvester, if you haven't already used Harvester, that is, but yeah, it just adds a card to hand, which is dope. You can also normal summon it if you don't have any monsters without any tributes, but it just becomes 1800 attack, so it's not as if it's like a dead card if you open it up. But it's not exactly the greatest card. Its level does make it useful for Fortress though, because it is a 1-card discard for Fortress, which is nice. But yeah, pretty decent card, at least one of, which is fine, purely because Machina Redeployment is so goddamn powerful that it makes running this card actually worth it. Then we've got the 2 trains, heavy freight train, Dera Crane. Like I said, you might want to knock one of these guys out to put in the other train card. Purely to give yourself a little bit more versatility. It's not a massive difference, it doesn't come up like at all, but you might want to do this. They both basically just special summon themselves from hand. This card will summon itself whenever you summon any other Earth Machine, and this card, as long as all of your monsters on the field are Earth Machines, you can special summon it. They're basically identical. The reason you want 2 different ones is so that you can special summon them both in one turn and hopefully do some rank 10 exceed plays, but it doesn't come up. Don't worry too much about it. And lastly then, our actual boss monster, Machina Citadel. Machina Citadel. If you say Machina Citadel, you're wrong. Can't be normal summoner set, of course. It basically, whenever an Earth Machine on your field is destroyed and this card is in your graveyard, this card will special summon itself back from the grave. It also has an effect where while it's on the field, quick play effect, you can target any Earth Machine monster on your field, destroy it, and then all of your opponent's monsters with attack points equal to or less than that you destroyed all get destroyed. You saw it in the final game where we completely nuked an entire Sword Soul board because of this card. It is absolutely nuts. And it just continues to come back every single turn. I would probably, if I had 2 of it, I would probably run 2, because your opponent's not going to play. It's going to be the fastest call by the grave you've ever seen in your damn life. As soon as they see this in the graveyard, their priority number 1 becomes banish that thing before it becomes a problem. So I would maybe run 2 of it because it is that good. It is that good. Getting into spells and or traps, we got triple Lightning Storm, of course we do. We sort of want to go second, or at the very least we're okay with going second. So a bit of Lightning Storm never hurt anybody, except your opponent. Then we've got Machina Redeployment, one of the most powerful searching cards in the game. I'm sorry, I don't care what you say, this card is nuts. You can either discard a card to add 2 Machina monsters from your deck to your hand. I bit my tongue, ow. And basically just discard any card to grab 2 Machina monsters, or if you discard a Machina card, you can grab any 2 Machina cards with different names to your deck. That distinction would be relevant if we were running anything but monsters, but we're not, so it doesn't really matter. You can just discard whatever you want for this. The effect stays the same in this particular variant. But bear in mind that this card can also search for Machina spells and traps, so if you wanted to play Defense Perimeter or Armored Unit or Overdrive, you know, in other words, if you wanted to lose, you totally could. But don't. Furion to Coliseum on activation will search your deck for a Furion monster. It's going to grab you a Regulus. My dog just came in and opened the door behind me. It's going to grab you a Regulus. Regulus, of course, can special summon itself and do all the fun stuff. Also, once per turn, when a monster in the field is destroyed by battle, you get to recycle back a Regulus from your graveyard. Pretty awesome. Heavy Forward. Oh, it can also, one other small effect, it can protect one of your cards from destruction, or any monster in the field from destruction, for that matter, by sending a Furion card from the deck to the graveyard. Which isn't a huge effect, but, you know, it's handy sometimes. It's good to know of. Heavy Forward, this card has a bunch of text. I'm not going to lie, I read the first line and moved on with my life. Basically, it searches for any Infinitrack monster from your deck to your hand on activation, which is awesome. Of course, if you have a Machine Exceed monster, then you can activate one of the other effects, either change its battle position or attach this card as material. Both of those are nice, although it's almost entirely here for the first effect of grabbing an Infinitrack from deck. It is also nice to play around with your Ballista. So your Ballista has an effect where you can destroy one of your spells and traps to reduce one of your opponent's attack points to 0, which is nice. So this being a continuous spell makes it an easy target for Ballista, which is kind of nice. Double Call by the Groove, of course we do, mandatory. Everyone's playing Maxi, you have to have this card, I'm sorry. Urgent Schedule, one of the more powerful cards in the deck. We're only playing 2 of it because it sort of sucks when you're going first. But basically, if your opponent controls more monsters than you, you can special summon a level 4 or lower and a level 5 or higher machine monster straight out from the deck. Absolutely nutty. Of course, you can't declare an attack of anything but a machine and their effects are all negated, blah blah blah, but this card is absolutely nuts. And finally then for the main deck, we have Infinite Permanence. Really good generic hand trap, I don't know what to say. Getting into the extra deck then, beginning off of our rank 4s, our Gear Gigant X, of course. You can't really play a machine deck without playing this guy, it's pretty nuts. Once per turn, you can basically get the detach material to grab any level 4 or lower machine from your deck to your or graveyard back to your hand. Really sort of nice generic searching. Basically, it can grab you your Harvester, your Anchor Drill, your Box. So it's just generally pretty nice. We've got Dweller, of course we have Dweller. Dweller is crazy. It stops basically any graveyard type strategy, which is awesome, of course. Yeah, Dweller's just pretty solid overall. If you're playing level 4s, if you have the capacity for summoning a rank 4, Dweller's never a bad one to have in your deck. Then we've got Double River Stormer. Now this card's pretty awesome because it can basically, whenever it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can grab that monster and attach it as material, which is kind of nice. But its main effect is that you can detach material to grab any Earth Machine monster and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. So that's its main effect, because you can search really ridiculously powerful targets like Regulus. There's no restrictions on it, so it can search for your Regulus, it can search for your Citadel, for your Fortress. If you've yet to use your normal summon, it can search for things like your Gear Frame or whatever. So definitely really powerful effect there. And if it happens to be in your graveyard, you can tribute a Machine Link monster to special summon this card back to your field in defense. Now bear in mind, its defense isn't exactly amazing, so you know, you'll not be using that effect too much, but it is something to bear in mind. We've got the Infinitrack Earth Slicer. This card, of course, being absolutely nutty. It requires 2 level 9s. Now, I know what you're thinking, we're only playing 1 level 9 in the whole deck. The way you're going to summon this card is using your Infinitrack Anchor Drill plus any of your level 5 Infinitrack monsters. This card can use its effect and combine the levels of both itself and one of your level 5s to become level 9. That is how you're going to bring out your Earth Slicer, which is a pretty awesome card for going for massive amounts of damage. If it destroys a monster by battle, yet again similar to the River Stormer, you get to steal that monster and use it as material. You can detach any number of materials from this card and destroy that many cards on the field. And once again, like the River Stormer, if it's in your graveyard, you can tribute a Machine Link monster to summon it out to the field in defense. Now its defense is a bit more respectable, but yeah, Earth Slicer, definitely a really nice card to have in there. Then we got our level 10 sort of package here for our trains. We've got the Gustav Rail Cannon, Gustav Max, sorry. Basically just detach a material, inflict 2000 damage. It's only here because it can sort of lead into your Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libby or Live or whatever this thing's name is. This is your real sort of OTK tool. This card can attack basically per material it has +1. And it can also detach a material to gain 2000 attack and defense points for the rest of that turn. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, so it gains 2000 attack and defense by detaching material and can attack for as many times as it has materials +1, which makes it incredibly aggressive OTK machine, absolutely brutal if you manage to use it, especially considering your opponent's going to be down 2000 life points. So yeah. And lastly, we've got number 81, the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora, just another level 10 machine that you can summon your Dreadnought on top of. You basically just summon this by using any rank 10 machine exceed. This is just another possible rank 10. Detach a material, target a face-up monster. That card is unaffected by card effects until the end of the turn, so it's basically a decent defensive tool, more so than anything else. Then we've got our 2 copies of Infinitrack Goliath. It's mainly sort of here to work alongside your Infinitrack Exceed monsters, just to make their effects live. It's not super useful on its own, of course, so, you know, you don't have to play this. It's not as useful as I thought it was going to be, but, you know, it's kind of nice. Then you've got your general sort of nightmare package, your Cerberus and your Phoenix. Remember, we're not allowed to use lights or darks in this event, so these guys are going to be some of the better generic Link monsters, being able to just pop a special summon monster and pop as background card. Ballista, we've already basically fully talked about this card actually. It's here to grab the box, which makes the Anchor Drill and the Tunneler searchable. It can also reduce something's attack points to 0 by popping a spell or trap you control, so pretty straightforward stuff. We've got the Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Now this is one of the more interesting picks of the deck. Basically, if you summon this guy by using any level 7 or higher monster as at least one of the materials, it can't be targeted by effects, nor can it be destroyed by effects, which makes it pretty damn difficult to get rid of. It basically makes it a Diet Avramax. If it destroys a monster by battle, you get to do one of the following effects. Gains 1500 attack, you can banish a card in the field, or during the next turn, it can make a second attack. Now, this isn't necessarily once per turn, so remember, if you choose the second attack effect, that means next turn it gets to select 2 of these effects. So, you know, that's pretty solid. It's a really nice boss monster. Of course, calling back to the Envoy of the Beginning, really cool card. I just really wanted an excuse to use it, and it turned out to be super useful. And lastly, of course, Apollosa, generic Link monster. It can be anything you want. We never use this card. We don't spam out enough monsters to make this super useful most of the time. At most, you're getting like 3 materials. But yeah, there you go. That's the deck list. Is this optimal? I don't know, probably not, although I can't think of a lot of things I would change. I really like this deck. This is a ton of fun. Really, really good. But I will be playing with the Vernus Life version. Keep an eye out for that. I do plan on practicing a little bit with that before getting into it, although it doesn't really seem all that complicated, but we shall see. Anyway, that has been the deck list. That's the video. If you got this far and you like what you're seeing, make sure you do hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, I don't know what you're doing. You might as well, since you've got this far. You do me a wee favor, help yourself, help me, hit the red button, and with that, I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.